You've photographed some of the most famous people in the world. I'm quite envious of some of the people that you've met in the past. Is there anybody that stands out that impressed you or inspired you?
Again, this is going to sound pseudo nice, but there's so many people, you know what I mean? There is, and it doesn't matter if it's some back streets of Beirut. Some of the people I photographed there, they were piss poor. I mean, they were cooking rats to eat, you know. And these people, you know, they welcome into your home, and they're just some of the loveliest people I've ever met. They're inspiring to me. People, again, I was fortunate that I was in Rio de Janeiro and I saw some of the favelas just outside the city. Very, 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 very poor people. But it's always please and thank you and how you doing and can I help you? And they're interested in your life. And, you know, I find these people inspiring. Yeah, I've been fortunate. I've worked with some of the biggest movie stars and musicians in the world. And I'm very humbled by that as well, because just to have privy to their conversations and things that you speak about. But equally, you know, all people impress me, Gordon. There's no just, you know, it's not just like, if you tell me you've went and got a #1 record this week, I'll think, good for you, mate, well done, that's magic. And I'll genuinely mean that. If you tell me you've just saved a child's life by brain surgery or donating some blood, I'll admire you more. You know, because it's what you can give to others is important to me. You know, it is important to me. And that's where I don't want the kids to think you need to be the next best football player or the next best pop star, or the next biggest movie star, or the next best photographer. You know, that will come. That will come. It will come with hard work. But equally, I don't want kids living with a false sense of, if I just do this, I'm guaranteed this. You're not guaranteed anything. But you will never know unless you try. And as I say, you'll get so much success by doing sometimes the simplest things. You know, it's like this trip I'm away today, I'm going to go to the Scottish Highlands. And I could have got the most expensive camper van in the world, and I could have stayed in the best hotels in the Highlands, and I could have got a helicopter to take me to do this, but I'm not. I'm getting in an old camper van with an assistant, and the camper van, as you've just told you, is lying outside, broke down. Because it brings back a wee sense of achievement. We'll have fun doing this, it'll create a memory. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think that's the sort of thing. I remember one of my times that I had and it's weird, I still remember this, was I had a motorbike, and I was 16 or something, and I worked in a city centre, and the thing broke down, and I didn't want to leave it in the city centre in case somebody knocked it, and we were staying in Ridley at the time. This thing weighed a ton. I was 16, I was young, I was fit, but I remember pushing it all the way back, and just getting back with that motorbike. It was bucketing and it was peeing for the heavens, torrential rain, but it felt magic when I got there. You know, the first couple of steps you think, oh, what am I doing, this is stupid. But just to do something like that. Now, as you said, I've met some of the most important people in the world, and I've worked with some of the biggest movie stars, superstars, whatever you want to call them. I've travelled the world, but I still remember that motorbike thing, because that was a sense of achievement for me. You know, and that's important. You know, it's the wee things that will kick on at the big things.
David, you know we've already interviewed Robert Carlyle, and it seems to be that there's a lot of very creative people come from the East End of Glasgow. How much do you think kids can use things like photography or creative arts?
I think that's one of the great things about with kids, that they're encouraging them to do that, and every kid has creativity. It's like photographic, I kind of hear creativity within them, and I think it's an expression that they can, it's a release for them as well, and it also makes them feel they're creating something, and by creating something, achieving something. And I think through the years we're always believed, you know, that if you can't read and write properly, then you're not very clever, and that couldn't be further from the truth. So just to let kids draw, to take photographs, to see the world. That's one thing I always say to kids. You are special because there's not another single person in this world who sees it the way you see it. And that's important. That is valuable. I might look at that corner of the room, and you might look at that corner of the room. We will see different things. We'll know the bigger picture, but we'll see different things. My vision of that corner is not any different, is not any better than yours, and that doesn't matter what age. In fact, most kids are probably more visually aware than I am because they're taking more information in. And I think it's important for kids to just get themselves engrossed in drawing, scribbling, construction, making things. So I think art's a huge thing for kids. It's almost like, because there is no right or wrong, there's not a test for it in that way. You know, it's not like you can only spell a word a certain way. You can paint a picture a million ways. You know, you can take a photograph. I say that again to students. There's no such thing as a better photographer than anyone else. Some of us photograph the world as honestly the way we see it, and we're fortunate the world likes the way we see it. But it doesn't make us any better. I just arrogant, whatever you want to call it. I photograph the world the way I see it, and unfortunately they like it. Now, there's no right or wrong. There's no such thing as a good picture or a bad picture. Whereas you can spell certain things or you can add numbers up. Now, as I said earlier on, I'm dyslexic and I'm hopeless with maths and figures. I'm probably not the most successful business person in the world, but it's never been that interest to me, because my escapism, and this is where it's hugely important, is for kids to create things. Get things out of them, you know. Discover new things. What happens if I try this? Question themselves, to try not to be scared. I think the importance is to avoid the rigid sort of boundaries of necessarily science, maths, and literature, which are all important and they'll all come in developmental stages. But I think we've got to recognise equally, especially in children, the importance of graphics, photography, painting, drawing, sculpture, creating, because this is self-development for them as well. And a lot of them will find the second things as I did. I never read a book until I have no idea. I always remember when I went to Napier University as a mature student. I never got in on qualifications. I got on because I was a mature student. And I remember I had to write a dissertation of 10,000 words. And I don't think I had ever written anything longer than my address because I was terrified. I couldn't write. I couldn't write, I couldn't spell properly. And as it turned out, the dissertation went really well because I had a brilliant lecturer who encouraged me just to write what you feel. We can tidy it up later on, we can fix it later on, but get out what you feel. And from that, I got a little bit of encouragement. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to try and read. And I can read. I'm not a great reader, but I can read. And now more and more I read. So in a roundabout way, the photography and the art world has taught me now. Yeah, and that's what's important to kids now. Yes, we should try and teach every kid to read and write. That's a given. But equally, let's teach them to paint, to draw. And when I say teach, I mean give them encouragement to do that. Because there'll be so many of these kids that are emotionally disturbed that this is their escape. This is their way they can. This is the way they can express and release. You know, this will let them get anger out. This will let them get misunderstandings out. This will let them get the things that they know are wrong, but they don't know. They're not old enough to know what wrong is, but they know there's something not right. So this, through photography, through painting, drawing, building sculptures, anything will let them get this out. You know, so I think it's hugely important that with what With Kids is doing, in an indirect way, is really helping these kids' education as well, because it's going to encourage them to be who they are, to be creative, to find other channels of expression.
And develop other skills.
Exactly, and the other skills will develop from them.